Hi everybody, my name is Hunter with the Indoor Golf Shop, and today we are going to be talking about everything projectors. So today we're going to kind of go into some details of our projector brands we carry, the different statistics you can expect out of each one. We're going to go into detail on how to set each one of these up and just the differences between why you would go with, say, a Panasonic over a BenQ. So with that being said, we'll get right into it. All right, everybody, so our first projector today is going to be the Optima series. Now, Optima is going to have a very wide range of different styles that you can get. As far typically what we see a lot of is the Optima 1080 HDR, but you can get stuff all the way up to the 412 is a very popular model. One of the big reasons why we have Optima is it's probably the most popular golf simulator projector right now. Now, there's a few reasons for that. One, it is the shortest throw projector that we have found that is not an ultra short throw. Now what that means is we can have this projector typically only mounted a few feet away from the screen, which is going to in turn give us zero shadowing, but they are going to be a little bit less bright than your standard theater projector. So you do want a little bit more light control, depending if we go with a 3000 lumen Optima, or if you do something like the 412, that's all the way up to 4000. The big issue I see with people in the Optimas is that they have a bit less adjustment than some of the typical theater projectors that people would be used to. What I mean when I say that is right here we have a focus knob, but we do not have a zoom lens. Now that means one very important thing, and it's that there's only about a 1 square foot area where this projector will actually work properly to fill up your whole screen. So a lot of what we have to do for people is, you initially have to plug everything in, get your iPad plugged in, get your computer plugged in, get the Optima turned on, set it on the ground, and you just got to start going in and out. It does take a lot of messing around with the keystone as well. This one, the 1080 only has the vertical keystone, where the higher up you get, the 412 is going to have vertical and horizontal, which means we can get offset just a little bit. But essentially, these are going to operate a bit different if you have that iPad or computer. So the best way to actually get these functioning is before we screw them out in the ceiling, before we know for sure where electric's going to go, we're going to want to play around with it a little bit and try to fill the screen before we actually install it. Now, once it's actually installed, there's nothing really you have to do after that. It is, there's not going to be any adjustments. The only time we'd have to switch anything up is if we're just changing a whole bunch of different inputs around. But besides that, the Optimas can take a little bit longer to get installed, but they are a very stable unit. Again, you are vastly cutting down your chances of having shadows. So these can be something that works in spaces that are only 14, 15 feet deep, where a lot of the normal projectors are going to require anywhere from 17 to 20 feet. So another interesting feature with these Optima projectors is since they do have such a short throw, these are one of the few projectors that you actually have the ability to decide, do I want to mount it on the ceiling or do I want to throw it inside one of the floor shields? They're pretty much made for these Optimas. They're not going to fit projectors much bigger than that. But what that does for people is, say you have 20-foot ceilings, or what I hear a lot of is, hey, what do I do with my garage door opener? Typically if you got a 20-foot deep garage, you are going to be hitting right where that garage opener is, and there's a very good chance that's the exact spot where the projector has to go. They are going to be the most popular golf simulator projector. If you're doing your research, you will see Optima pop up quite a few times. So just make sure that you're getting the right one for you. The big thing I always tell people with Optima is make sure that you have control of the light if you're doing something that's 3000 lumens. Once we're getting over 4, that's when you can pretty much do whatever you want. All right, guys, so now we have our Panasonic projector. Panasonic is probably our biggest fan favorite, just with its combination of brightness and honestly the price point. It's a pretty tough deal to beat. We do have this Panasonic in a bulb and a laser, so we do have both. But at the end of the day, the image that you actually see is going to be very similar. Now, you get a lot better resolution with those lasers, but the bulbs can be wonderful in a pinch. A lot of the reasons I love this projector is the amount of adjustability that you get. Where with that Optima, we've got a pretty small box we're working with. Panasonic, I can essentially mount this anywhere that my screen actually sits. I have been able to get this projector essentially lined up with the edge of almost any impact screen, as wide as, I think the biggest one was about 16 feet wide, and I had it perfectly lined up with the right edge. Now, this does take quite a bit of messing around with your zoom, backing it up, going back into the four-corner correction, but those are options that make it a lot easier. Big difference between your normal keystone, which is essentially just moving our sides left and right like this, or our top and bottom like this. These Panasonics offer the four-corner correction, which allows me to grab any individual four corners and pull them into really anywhere I would like. So it just gives the customer a lot more ability to get it figured out on their own without having to, get stuck on a Saturday when they finally got everything set up. The biggest mistake I see people make with these is they just mount it too close. Just like we talked about with previous projectors, you want to turn everything on before you actually plug it in. We will be able to provide very close distances, but there's always a little bit of variance with these projectors. So taking it out of the box, plugging it in, getting it set up in a little office chair is never a bad idea, even with some of the more higher end or premium projectors. If you're in a open garage space where you even have a bay open, typically 4,000 to 5,000 lumens or more are going to get you past that excess light. So even this Panasonic for 1400 is going to be able to shine through almost any of that excess light that you see. A lot of what we see as far as the troubleshooting goes when it comes down to these Panasonics is making sure that we're set in the right aspect ratio. That is really the only downside I've noticed. Is the only way to change this is you do have to do it from the main starting menu. So we do have some people that run into some issues there. But once you're able to actually get it back in the 4.3 after initializing it, then that's where everything does become quite a piece of cake. These are going to be a wonderful projector for anybody that is just having a little bit of trouble making it fit, or somebody who's wanting a little bit closer to that theater experience without having to jump all the way up to the 4K setups. All right, everybody, and we are on our final projector brand. This is the BenQ. Now, BenQ has really made a large impact in the golf simulator world in the last couple years. These are going to be the first golf simulator projectors that were specifically made to be golf simulator projectors, where a lot of the Panasonics are, they're going to be theater projectors. Optimas they started as theater projectors, but have geared a little bit more into the golf sim. But these were specifically made to run on these golf simulator softwares. So you're going to get a bit different color palette than normal projectors. You're going to get a lot brighter blues and greens with these BenQs, so quite a bit sharper image. It is still a very, very bright projector. Usually they're right around 5,000 to 5,200 lumens, and these can get you all the way into that 4K mark. And really where I see a lot of these is if we're trying to double this as a theater room. These are really going to be one of the few that give you a combination of the brightness and resolution of the theater projectors along with the short throw function of those Optimas. So as far as being a perfect simulator projector, they are pretty hard to beat with just where they're located, typically just right behind the golfer in a very safe spot. But these BenQs actually come with a little bit more adjustment than some of the other ones. So you've got physical lens shift, which some of the Panasonics do have as well. But that basically allows me to mount my projector dead center of the room, twist these little knobs up on top, and shift my whole image left and right, up and down if we're off center a little bit, along with that standard four-corner correction that we talked about. So they don't have nearly as much offset as some of those Panasonics, but if we're talking about a 10-foot wide screen, I can still get this thing anywhere from 3 to 4 feet off center. This one will probably be the easiest out of all of them. There's nothing extra you have to do to get it in the proper aspect ratio, and really there's only a couple buttons to push to get that four-corner correction pulled up. And really one of the last things to know here about the BenQ is going to be that all of the higher end BenQs are going to be full laser projectors, and these do have a fairly new feature in laser projectors called a sealed engine, which really just means that laser is not going to be melting down anything in the actual projector. It's not going to allow dust to get all the way in there. So usually you can expect around a couple years with some of these projectors, but BenQ you can definitely expect a little bit more. And with these golf simulator projectors, there's two very big points that I try to make out to everybody. Number one point is the lumens. All right, the big difference between 720 to HD to 4K is not insane, but the difference of 3000 lumens to 4000 lumens is a massive noticeable difference. Same thing with 4000 to 5000. So as far as the categories go, you've got your Optimas right around your 3 to 4000. And then once we hop up into those Panasonics, that's where you're getting into the 5000 plus range. Now, the second biggest thing is going to be the throw ratio. Again, all this is doing is telling you how far your projector has to be for a certain size screen. So with those Optimas being a 0.5 throw ratio, those typically only have to be about 7 to 10 feet away on standard golf simulator screens. And when I say that, I'm talking anywhere from 8 to 12 feet wide. Your bin cues, they're going to be a 0.9 throw ratio, or 0.5 to 0.9, which means typically they're going to sit anywhere from around the 10-foot mark to the 13-foot mark on an 8 to 12-foot wide screen. And the final one is those Panasonics and your traditional theater throw projectors, or I call them traditional throws. Those are typically going to sit anywhere from 13 to 18 feet away from a screen. That is the biggest thing to know. Is a lot of times I see people that want to get those theater projectors that they just don't realize that it has to sit 27 feet away from their impact screen. Which at that point, you know, it is impossible to avoid shadows. You're gonna have to give a little bit. I will say now there's finally enough projectors and short throws out that there is a projector to fit everybody's space. You know, it will take a little bit of work for some people to find the proper one, but with all of the options that are out there, there is definitely something that'll work for you. Don't forget to like the video, don't forget to subscribe. Definitely stay tuned for our next simulator videos. We're gonna be coming out with a lot more instructional videos about these projectors and just getting into a lot more detail on all the different things that are coming out in the simulator industry. Thanks guys, have a good one.